Hello, and welcome to the Oracle Report for the month of April 2026. So happy you're tuning in. I really appreciate your ears, and I intend that everything that comes through here is in support of your spiritual growth and your light. So if you're new here, I offer this Oracle Report towards the end of every month. And we're looking ahead at the upcoming month, and I've brought together different wisdoms and energetics that have been shared through dreams, through sometimes astrology, through themes and readings, through channeling. And I bring these all together to offer to you, to support you as you're navigating this month ahead. So everything for today is looking at the month of April and kind of what energetics might show up for us and different ways that we can work with them for our highest good. So while these collective messages apply to everybody, they'll apply to each of us in a unique way. And I always like to encourage you to listen with an open heart and an open mind and receive what resonates, what supports you, and feel free to release the rest. Some of it may make sense later, and some of it might not. That's fine. So I start by sharing an oracle card for the collective, and then we go into the different themes and messages that have come forth for the month. So today I am pulling an oracle card from the White Light Oracle by Alana Fairchild. It's such a beautiful deck, and I haven't used it in a little while here on the Oracle Report, but I have previously. So yeah, let's dive in. And I also, before we do, want to recommend that you, if you feel called, listen to past Oracle reports. There is a lot of timeless wisdom, and you can use your intuition and hone in on one that resonates for you. I'll also request now, instead of at the end, I would so appreciate if you could like, subscribe, comment, share. This is a free offering, and it really helps me to be able to continue to offer it, to get these messages out to more folks that they can support with just a little bit of help from you. So thank you in advance for that. Okay, so let's start with the Oracle card. For the month of April for the collective, the Earth, predominantly human collective. Okay. Oh, fun. Bastet. I don't know how to say it, but it's a lovely, fun deity who is quite powerful and supportive. All right, so let's read a little bit from this oracle card description. And just a reminder that I do share the full description in Sacred Lights and typically on my Instagram. Sometimes I will share that as well through email to my email list. So if you want to kind of dive in deeper, just go to one of those places and give it a check out. But let's read the first part here. So, you've been moving so fast for so long that you're not realizing how wound up you've become. Gently unwind now to drop into a deeper, slower, healing rhythm, and you will restore your body, mind, and soul. Things which seem too difficult right now shall soon seem very manageable and even pleasurable to accomplish. The Egyptian cat-headed goddess of dance, festivals, birth, healing, and sacred potions is known as Bastet. Her sacred cult was one of beauty, pleasure, and enjoyment. Worshipping her was not about ignoring the problems that are part of being alive. In fact, just as cats see in the dark and are natural and skillful hunters, Bastet was often called upon for psychic protection from hidden negativities and to secure one's life force and enhance one's vitality. In her role as healer and creatrix of magical healing potions and sacred perfumes, she integrates healing with pleasure, relaxation, and essential connection to the physical world of nature, including beautiful natural oils and jewels made with precious and semi-precious stones. Bastet shows us how to slow down and smell the roses whilst applying their perfumed oil to our bodies and breathing in their high-frequency scent to protect and soothe the heart. She is the guardian and guide into the sumptuous feminine paradise that brings healing, a willingness to connect to the earth and the body, and a capacity to experience sacred healing playfulness, exuberance, and natural states of joy. Lovely. And then it talks a little bit about the frequency of 174 hertz, known as the pain relieving frequency, and how we're kind of tuning into Bastet. I don't know why my tongue just like gets caught on that one. When we're tuning into her wisdom and energy, we're kind of like surrendering, relaxing, and opening to the like trusting our bodies and our relationship with the earth, and how that starts to bring us not only out of pain but out of suffering. So the kind of continual cycling of pain if we're not knowing how to work with it. So yeah, I like that. It links up a little bit to some of the themes for today. Not as much as usual, but a little bit. So let's go into those. I'm going to just see if there's anything else to comment on here. Yeah, I think with like a lot of the challenges, tensions, very difficult things that we might see in others, in our world, all the problems, it can consume us, you know, if we don't remember to kind of come back to what's eternal, regardless of the dance of life and how difficult things might seem, and to know that we have the power, the sovereignty to choose that for our life and our unfolding, that we can, you know, come from that place of relieving the suffering and the pain because we're choosing to emanate a more true frequency and finding the ways to live that in our life and not, ignore the problems, but actually stepping into our power and our sovereignty and stepping into kind of like the surrendering to our eternity and to our light, then we actually are strengthening ourselves so that we know how to approach the problems, or we don't have to ourselves be in the loops of pain and suffering here on earth, even with all that unfolds, and we can show up to the full emotional spectrum that we are afforded here. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to jump around a little here from my list because some of these seem to align a bit more with this card than others. And the first one that was coming through for April was the word celebration, and particularly It was allowing yourself to celebrate, even if there isn't like a planned celebration. While you might be getting ready for a planned celebration, you might have a celebration in April. Yeah, weddings, birthdays, etc. I'm sure that is happening, but it's more than that. There's also this coming back to celebrating life, and what can you celebrate about your life instead of staying in the places that kind of render that pain and suffering, and keep us focused with our attention on the problem. So how can we come back to what is wonderful about life? What is wonderful about your body? What is wonderful about relationships? About being able to feel, about nature, especially, that was coming forward. And there was particularly this message of healing with trees. And something about, as trees are kind of in this area waking back up in the spring, um, there's some kind of wisdom that they have for humanity right now in April. They do all the time, but particularly this spring and this April, there's some way that the trees would like to support us. And you can tune in to what that might be for you. Just go sit outside and lay with your back against a tree and maybe journal or meditate or just gaze at a tree and receive. Open your heart and listen and see what it might want to share with you, because the trees are living beings. There is energy, consciousness there, and because they don't communicate in the same way that we do, doesn't mean that, they're not conscious, beautiful, wise beings. And most of them are, well, I'd say like more evolved than humanity tends to be. So they have a lot to offer. And in particular, there's something about them kind of reattuning us to the natural rhythms of life, rather getting kind of caught up in the frenzy of what humans have decided to create in this world that is actually like going against the divine, going against soul will. And not all humans, but there are enough of them that there are creations and there are remnants of creations on earth for humans' choices that haven't been in alignment with the divine. And trees, this is, as I was hearing it this month, are sharing with us something that helps us to reattune to that frequency, which is like the natural frequency of our soul. And this isn't just like one frequency. It's not like the card was saying 174 or hertz. It's like, it's beyond that. There's like a oneness in this frequency that's being talked about, and it's going to show up in unique ways because we're all unique, but the essence of it is like alignment to our soul and alignment to the original like divine will and the divine blueprints that are still here and very powerful. And the more that we decide to align ourselves with them, to know ourselves and to choose that with our sovereignty, through our sovereignty, the more that we create space for a different reality going forward. And we don't make that choice with attachment to the reality going forward, but it is something that opens the doors and can give us hope. And more so, it's meant to bring us healing for now, because when we have that hope about the future, we actually come back to our eternal light within. In some ways, like it doesn't matter what happens. And there might be parts of you that's like, what does matter? Which I understand. And what I'm getting in this is like, we need to release the attachment to what happens in the future and choose the light now in this moment for the sake of that. That is all we need here. Okay. So this next theme that was coming through was in regards to creativity. And the need for us to birth whatever has been gestating in us this winter. And most of us have probably already started on this track. Like there might be a certain project or idea, inspiration that you had that is in the works. And there's just a message that you have extra energy for that in the month of April. And there's also this process that attention was being called to, where we need to kind of clarify what we want to give our energy to. And this correlates to like any creative projects or like what has been inspiring us. We have to kind of decide. It's like if there are all these seeds that we're holding, or even little shoots, maybe not all of them are meant to grow into a flower, grow into a tree and fruit, maybe just a few of them. And if we try to hold all of them, without really getting that clarity on what is ours to hold, what is ours to do, we're like scattering our energy. And this in particular was being brought forward. And alongside that, so like that's one side of this coin, when the message of working with creativity was coming through and our inspirations. And the other side of it was like creative freedom. So having a space where you aren't like, you don't need to be entirely responsible for your creations. Like, yes, we're all responsible for everything that we create. And that's why it's important for us during the creative process to feel aligned. However, sometimes that knowing that we are responsible for our creations and almost like the pressure of that can get us out of alignment, get us out of that space of just like, all right, the true inspiration when you're taking a breath, inspiring, it's like, it's like you feel lighter, you fill up, you receive. There's a freedom in that. There's also like the inhale could be connected to the divine feminine and receiving and filling up, and the arts and just that creative flow. It just moves through us. It's not something we own necessarily. It's like something we are. It's a living force of movement. And that's like the real energy of creativity and what creates life and matter, and which is like, God, goddess, when we get down to it. And sometimes in our humanity, in our world, as we're like so busily working on maybe spiritual growth and our lives and taking care of what we need to take care of on a daily basis, we can get in this state that pulls us out of that, and we're thinking about like results and going forward, and we get really caught up maybe in the mind. And to just give ourselves some space where we have creative freedom helps us stay in alignment, so that we are responsible to our creations, not in a way that's based on like fear of like, oh no, what if I create something that falls apart or fails, or like, I don't know, it makes me feel vulnerable in a way I don't like, or there's all these possibilities that might start to feed fear and get us out of alignment. As opposed to when we're in alignment, it feels more of that creative flow, and we know kind of where we want to put our energy and what comes next. And there's a message this month in order to build that, so we have the alignment, to give yourself some space for just like free creativity, openness, limitlessness, even if it's just in your mind, and in like a way that's wholesome and safe and healthy, so that you can kind of steward that relationship with the creative life force, so you have clarity about where you should be best putting your energy, what is truly aligned for you in your life. Okay. Yeah, and there was definitely like a message around fun with creativity and celebration. So I like how both of these connect to the energy that was shared in this card to like come into the senses, and this helps us to slow down and truly find the wholesome healing rhythms. Okay, what next? Let's see here. This is a simple one. So there was a message coming forward about this month going pretty fast, and this kind of like time is still speeding up. Everything is just feeling kind of faster and faster, and the guide shared it as like our energy is speeding up, and the Earth's energy is speeding up. So we're in this field that is actually like vibrating faster, moving faster, and then time feels faster. And you might feel, they explained in this, that more happens in this month than you expect, or more moves, even if it's not something happening, it might be happening, I guess, say internally is what I mean, rather than maybe it's not showing up entirely external, but potentially more than we expect. Like we might be getting towards the end of April and be like, whoa, like March feels ages away, but also it's just like, where did it go? And so much happened in that space, is because like our vibration is speeding up, that we can actually fit more in time than we used to be able to. But it also feels faster because of that vibration speeding up. So I don't know, I can almost hardly wrap my head around that, but I sort of get it, and I get the visual and the understanding of our energy body and the Earth's energy body vibrating faster. So along with that, there's this message, and this comes up in a couple of other ways too, to be intentional about your time and energy this month, maybe a little bit more so, because it's going to go so fast. You could be like, yeah, I intend to be intentional, and then we get almost done with the month, you're like, oh, I never did that actually. So there might be some intentions that you want to set. And as we just passed the equinox, we're kind of coming into this refresh time, and it is a good time to, yeah, like see what seeds are starting to sprout, or they're really vibrating, those inspirations that you had throughout this winter, the things that are ready for you to put your energy towards them. Like, what do you want to create? Again, going back to the creativity. And we're not just looking at this month, but we're looking at the rest, like until next year at this time. What do you want to create? What do you want to create during the summer, the fall? Like, what wants to move through you in this next year? And don't like squeeze the answer out. Hold it with, like just allow yourself to be the soil, or the water, or the sun. You just nourish the soil, nourish the seeds, and allow it to reveal itself to you. Allow that living energy to move and to show you what you resonate with and what is aligned and where your energy should be going. And in this process too, you'll also see where your energy should not be going. Where do you need to set some boundaries? Okay, I'm not going to give my energy to that. Okay. So there was a message along with this one as well regarding technology. And it came through as I was seeing the light in our energy field speeding up. And what I heard was, your light is the greatest technology. Like it's life, that's the greatest technology. And the message in that, and then I heard no fear. So what it felt like was trying to be shared was that there's nothing that can really usurp our power. So be mindful if you're kind of giving into fear, One way that I do it sometimes, just for an example, there's many ways we could do it. Like I think about plastic, and I think about all the tiny microplastics that are like now in my body, and I can feel them, and I feel the effect, the progressive effect of them on my health. I can see the progressive effect of microplastics on the health of the environment, on the health of my brothers and sisters, my um of the humankind, of animals, of like you could just see it's affecting life in a negative way. And sometimes that can be really depressing because there's like you feel like you don't have much power in that. And I can start to feel fearful sometimes, or just like, what do I do? And I might oscillate between that and just saying, everything's fine, almost like a spiritual bypassing. I mean, it's probably not that strong for me because that bothers me. That always has, but sometimes I will go to the place of, well, this is the unfolding. This is how it's going here. And they're kind of like two poles, and what feels right is to kind of merge them and come back in the middle, where I understand that um, all that plays out here, I can still have beautiful, wonderful experiences, even if I do have plastic in my body and I do feel health effects from it. And even if humans just continue down that path and making that choice, and we don't find anything to maybe shift that in our environment in a wholesome, healthy way. And it, like, even worst case scenario, I still am a sovereign light being here, just having an experience. It doesn't kind of threaten that. And if I choose to remember that, and um, in my turnings about plastic, then I can kind of bring that back down into my body and say, oh, yeah, right. No, like I'm not fear. I'm not that. And if I want to embody love and truth while I'm here, I can choose to do that. And I actually, through that, I am a greater technology, or like a greater power than that which has maybe gone against life on Earth, just by choosing it, because it's like what's rooted in the divine, what's rooted in Earth and her natural rhythms has so much more power than these things that what, like, we dance with the illusion of that we are not love, we're not truth, we don't have this power, we can't make a choice, we can't feel good while we're here. But all these things are kind of helping us remember that. So yeah, like that's a really long description of what might show up for you that brings you into fear, that snaps your power away. And how can you bring yourself back to center with it without like closing your eyes to what is playing out here in the world, remembering that your light is the greatest technology. AI doesn't have more power than you do. You can actually affect a lot through your consciousness. You're guided. It's not as like direct as, like, I saw something today about the glasses with the camera in them, and about how, like, I don't know, you could like find an address and a name or something of young girls, and it was like a message to moms with daughters. And um like that's good information. You don't want to maybe just like close it out, but also if you feel fearful about it, then it's like you might start vibrating to resolve that fear and attract a situation like that. And you're going to see it everywhere because that's what you're vibrating in. So we want to hold, like, all right, we're not going to like close it out, say it doesn't exist. I'm going to be open to it, but I know that like I'm okay. And I'm intending that I will be guided to not attract any negative situation unless it's for my highest good. But I want my soul to genuinely choose that. If my soul is genuinely choosing that in alignment with the divine, then I know it's best for me, right? Like if something like that happens, I'm going to allow myself to go through that process and receive the wisdom, transmute all of it into light. No, but for the most part, if we get ourselves there, we won't be attracting those situations. Or, usually what's for the highest is us learning how to hold our sovereignty and to be guided. So, is there anything that you fear regarding technology, or just what do you fear has more power than you do? Has more power over your life than your soul, than the divine? Because nothing really does unless you give it that power. Okay. Yeah, and just one message along with this was orienting to reclaiming your light during this journey instead of, I suppose, getting caught up in the illusions, getting snagged in them. Orient to reclaiming the light. Don't let your mind identify or attach too much to the dramas that play out, while also allowing your eyes to be open to what is. Okay, there's also a message of how it came through was like a snapback energy from the eclipse portal that we just went through, and kind of some reverberations playing out from that. So the way that this was shared was like, and the way I understand eclipses too, is like we don't have a ton of control around eclipses. Like they're not always the best manifesting times. Like usually you just want to kind of work with them. I mean, not even work. You just really open yourself up and receive their wisdom. You allow it to move. You allow the energy, the wisdom of them to do what it needs to do. Because most of the time, if we're in that creative mode with eclipses, as I understand it, we can tend to, it's almost like a dishonor to what the energetic of the eclipse is doing. So in general, it's usually better to like allow them. They can be really powerful though, right? So we're talking about, we just went through the eclipse portals and how there's still these lingering vibrations up into April from them. And they show this like, all right, snapback energy. So something that you were working on during the eclipse time, maybe not consciously, or that was being worked through you, or that was showing up for you during the eclipse, might be coming back. And they said this energy has a purpose. Like I just kept seeing it's like almost like you pull a rubber band and then it snaps back. And the idea here was that that's kind of the energetic that we need to break up the energies of what I was hearing was imprisonment and hardship. And remember, it's not okay. Well, first I'll say when it breaks it up, we're intended to experience more freedom. It should free up some space in your energy body, in your mind, your heart, your life. And it might not free up all the space. So I say that just because in order for you to really receive whatever it is freeing for you, it's good, especially around energetics from the eclipse portals, not to have too many expectations. Or it's like, well, I wanted to feel this free, but maybe I don't. And if you don't feel that free yet, or it's like, well, why is this not happening for me? Then I'll feel free. Maybe that's not really the freedom your soul is seeking. Maybe it's not the right time for that. So how can you open yourself just to fully receive whatever is moved and freed for you with this snapping energy? And this goes along really nicely with some of the like creative energy, the creativity, the celebration, the just like the inspiration, the receiving in. Yes, okay. All right, so this was kind of the last topic that came up, and there was a lot that was said about this, but the main idea that was coming through was value. And there were kind of these offshoot messages all over, or like sprouting out, kind of like a tree. It's like a tree and its leaves coming out in the spring. That's what it felt like. And the tree was value. And one of these shoots, branches, or leaves, however you want to look at it, was about valuing yourself. So there was something about how it's like, how can you be a little bit easier on yourself, a little less judgmental, a little less like, well, it needs to look like this. I need to look like this. I need to do it this way. Life needs to look this way. And if it doesn't, maybe there's something wrong with me. Any thinking along those lines, where can we clean that up? And particularly the question around value and self-worth was like, what, going back to what we give our energy to, when we're having these thoughts about that are even just like mildly, sometimes they can be really sneakily judgmental, and they work their way in. But if we don't kind of like either set a boundary, so let me just talk this through for a minute. If I was having a thought of something that fed lower self-worth or like lower consciousness, or like, oh, well, I haven't done this yet in my life, so like that's not good. And then as soon as I recognize that, I could meet it and choose what I want to do with that. If we just ignore it, sometimes it kind of gets stronger. So sometimes it can be right to just say, okay, like that's not true to my soul. And I trust my timing. And then you're just kind of reorienting, and you're almost like speaking back into your energy field the truth, and it clears it out naturally. But sometimes it might need to be worked with more directly. So like you might need to uncover, where does that come from? Why do I have that thought, especially if it's recurring or it just feels really personal? Does it connect to like your childhood, or someone in your life, or an institution in your life that kind of reinforced that for you? And then is that really true to your soul? Sometimes we need to do kind of the deeper work like that. And sometimes it might just be like, hey, we're empaths and we're going through an area of like dense energy. Maybe that was somebody else's thought to themselves, or even a thought about us, like a judgment that came onto us. So like, what is in our field that's getting in the way of our like owning our light, of like where our energy is going to? Are we feeding someone else's judgment of us, or that's negative and not really actually helpful to our soul or true to our light? Or are we choosing through that to come back to ourselves? And I heard these kind of powerful words connected to this. It was like, where are you a prisoner to lower consciousness? It felt really powerful when I heard it. So maybe thinking about that in your life, where is your energy being sucked out into lower consciousness, something that's not really in alignment with your soul and your deeper knowing, and your highest good? So in this too, there's also like an acknowledgement about how you are unique. We're all different, and even though we might have some similarities, even though we are all, I believe, of equal spiritual value, we all have like a very unique light, and a very unique expression here in a human body. And it's important for us to honor it. It's like, maybe, like, what do you really need to be in your light? What do you really need to be in true well-being, emotionally, mentally, physically, might be different than somebody else. And kind of revisiting that. What do I need to feel in my full well-being? And not letting yourself feel, again, like prisoner to what someone else thinks you need, or but really being honest with yourself, because sometimes someone might offer us, or the world might have certain advice or things that we think we've learned through science. And I say we think because, yeah, like maybe we have, maybe we haven't. I see science as kind of like we're taking steps each time. It's like truth, but maybe there's more truth and you could dive in deeper. But anyways, really making sure that you get the yes from within, but you're also not kind of evading the truth out of, like, I don't know, wanting to perpetuate certain habits. Or if you're choosing to perpetuate certain habits, do it with consciousness. It's like, okay, I'm choosing to do this for a while. This is just what I need to do right now. And I acknowledge that maybe, like, scrolling on Instagram before bed is not the healthiest fit thing for me, and it could throw certain things off. And I'm not going to hold on to any shame about it or judgment. I'll just give myself a little bit of space, because I feel like it is bringing me towards wholeness. And even though it's not a generally recommended thing, that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'm okay to, I'm not going to get like arrogant about it either, like super protective over it, because once you get into that place, that's, it's like you're protective because it could crumble. Instead, just allow yourself to have that, make a conscious choice. And yeah, there's also, along with this, so it's like, what do we need for true well-being, and looking at boundaries and setting boundaries with peace. So we're not setting them against, like, others, where we're like, hey, you're bad and wrong, so I'm going to put up a boundary. Because most of the time, if we're setting boundaries from a place that is not peaceful or doesn't bring us back to peace, not all the time, I will say, there's likely some wounding underneath that wants to be addressed. And sometimes we have to have that energy of, like, maybe anger or even arrogance, or it's like, oh, you did this thing. Yeah. We have to have that to give ourselves some spaciousness to tend to our own energy. So once we set that boundary, then we might not be taking on their energy, and we actually have the spaciousness to heal that wound. But the boundary isn't like, don't get so attached to that righteously that you're not able to really get the peace with it, or to come to that place of healing that it's meant to create. Everyone's on their own journey, and if you've interacted with someone or a situation or an institution in a way that has felt really challenging, or just like, hey, like, what are they doing? This doesn't feel right. Yeah, you might be, that might be totally true. But again, like, coming back to your sovereignty, you can still decide to a certain level what you want to create in this world. It's really your soul that decides, and we're aligning to that. But usually when we align to that, we find the peace. We find our way through it, even if it's a challenging situation. Okay. So another kind of like branch or leave in this bunch was looking again, and I've already said this to a certain extent, but this was coming through wrapped in with this message as well. It's usually the Oracle report, there's like all of the messages might reflect each other a little bit. So this one is like, what are you offering your energy to? Are you offering your energy to the things that you truly value and want to cultivate in your life? What do you want more of? And are you offering your energy to that? And bringing consciousness around what you're offering your energy to. Because there's a lot of because of like the pressure and because of like the speeding up of our energetic fields, as I was speaking to earlier, and because of it's like our lack of value of the feminine going into the dark, going into the deep soil, the womb, the unconsciousness. And by the way, we can go into like the unconsciousness with our light intact. So technically, it's like we're bringing our true consciousness into the unconscious. But a lot of us are craving that. We might just want to like tune out. um, so in that, we might not have like sovereign say around where our energy is going and what's it in service to, because we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm just going to pull back, and I can't right now. um and that's okay, but you want to set up like good protective cave space if that's where you're at too, so that your energy isn't being like siphoned off. You like pull all of your energy back in, you work with it in just your own little cave inner space. um but there's this talk of like looking at what your energy might be in service to and kind of like snipping the ties where it might being almost like siphoned off and extracted for the um, the aims of lower consciousness, or what was coming through is like what agendas is your energy in service to. And this gets interesting because it's like, people will put their ideas out there all the time. I'm even putting my ideas out there right now. I mean, they're based in something that's more than an idea for me, but there's a lot of ideas out there. And when we believe them, we can actually start to create something together that creates in the world. So you might even, all right, like 5 people, or I should say maybe like 50,000 people believe this one thing. And whether it's true or not, I'm not saying that, but all of that belief starts to feed this thing. And then it might kind of reflect back, and it starts like it has like a life of its own, an energy of its own. And it might reflect, and we're like, oh yeah, I see it now in the world. I know it's true. And then it gets stronger. And what if that thing that we were feeding wasn't really in alignment with the deeper truth that's within us? Does it feel actually like, does it bring us into fear? Does it bring us into despair, anger? Like, if it does all bring us into those places, we need to be more clear. We need to be as like very clear about what our interaction is with this, and does it really feel for the highest to be feeding this. So yeah, there's a message to kind of take a look at that. Where in your energy field is energy feeding certain agendas or consciousnesses, and you get to say. And the recommendation was kind of like not to get fearful of like, oh, I need to know exactly where all my energy is going, but for now, almost like better to pull your energy back in and just come back to a sense of peace, like meditate and allow the clarity to come through. Almost like what the card was saying, just come back to a space of ease and allow your consciousness to show you. And you can intend as well. This was also something that was brought up, is to create like not just the intentions, the seeds of this next year, or what you want to be creating in summer, but also the intention of, I would like all of my energy to be in service to creator, to divine will, to love and to truth, whatever it is that feels right for you, but some kind of like the higher good, that the deeper forces of divinity that are here alive in this world. So setting that intention for your energy, and you may feel called to look like pick it apart and look at different aspects of what your energy is in service to, or you might not. Um, you're the one who would know best. Okay. Yeah, and there's also something about in this all, there's a message of working with shame and the energy of refresh in terms of what your energy is in service to. Is it in service to things you really value? What needs to be refreshed about that? What's new about just you, who you are right now in this moment? Because we're like new in each moment. We're a living consciousness and beings. We are like, I'm not the same as I was when I first started speaking for this oracle report today, and neither are you. And looking at that in terms especially of like values and what your energy is in service to. What needs a refresh? Is there anything that you've been valuing that is like producing negativity or confusion or getting you further away from what really feels true in you? What needs a refresh? Oh yeah, and there was a message along too with this, like what agenda is your energy in service to? To feel and intend rather than think about it. And again, I said, as I was saying earlier, you can think about it if you feel called. You can kind of look like deeply into the what's there, but the general message was to feel through it and just state your intention. So almost this kind of like a anti-effort way of allowing this energy to be refreshed. Trust that that refresh is happening. Okay. And the the next bit around value, and this was said a bit earlier as well, but clarifying again like what your soul really wants to do right now. What of those seeds do you want to put your energy to? What is calling for you? And in terms of value for this, it's not um, like morals values, looking at the overall big picture, but more so what's alive right now, what feels the most like pulling in terms of your contribution to the world, your higher purpose, the value that you bring here. Like, what are you meant to do? So, not getting too, again, scattered with your actions and allowing the inspiration to be channeled in the correct way so that you can be in alignment with your higher purpose in the actions that you're taking, but especially looking at this next year and the summer. Okay, just see if there's anything else here. Oh, that is it. So that is all for April. Thank you so much for joining today and for listening up until this point. Again, please like, subscribe, share, comment. It really helps. And I appreciate you doing that and supporting this free offering so I can keep it going, keep sharing these messages. I love to hear from you too if there's anything that really resonated or you noticed showed up for you, or different messages that you received as I was speaking. I know for me, a lot of times when I listen to other folks who are tuned in psychically, because of the way I work, I'll just start like seeing more things, like they give you this little bit, and through that bit, you're like, oh yeah, and that, and that, and that. And yeah, I love to hear about that. So if that happens to you or anything else, you're welcome to share. Reach out to me. You can do so on Instagram at Angela Soul Rose. You can reach out through my website, soulrose.love, or through YouTube with the comments. And I love to hear from you. So I will share the card description again on Sacred Lights on my Instagram and through my email list. And if you don't see it there, but you'd like it, you can always just reach out to, and I will point you in the right direction. So I hope you have a beautiful, fast April. Many blessings to you, and I will see you next month. Take care.